Alright, turn 55, and this is the news of the turn. Nazca has gone in against Tianqi. Apparently Nazca has actually been invited to go in against Tianqi by a coalition of other players, which I think is very dangerous, but I mean, that's what they decided to do, so okay. There's a little bit of Ermor left. I've been told that Ermor is basically destroyed. So that army that I saw down there may have been their last hurrah, as it were. Asphodel is resurgent, and seems to be doing okay for themselves. They are gathering a large army here, which I anticipate may be attacking Dragon Scale Mountains. I'm just kind of quietly moving all my troops away. If they do decide to attack Dragon Scale Mountains, not much I can do about it. This turn, Ulm continued their progress against Vanarus, eating up forts and provinces and just generally destroying them very, very successfully. And up here, their armies are marching into my territory. I'm setting up a defense in the halls. I think I can probably hold the halls if I do everything right. So that's what I'm doing. We're casting more Pale Riders. We're constructing some mannequins. We're gathering up more mages, getting my Lamia Queens and more Long Dead Horsemen and Long Dead down there. We've got a whole bunch of cavemen, so we actually have a reasonable amount of siege defense. Albeit not enough to hold it if Ulm sends in their armies. And we cast Vengeance of the Dead, and looky loo. We caught Christine. Christine, the thrice-horned boar, who has an arm strapped to her, and is holding the Shield of the Dom, which gives affliction resistance, fire resist, awe, magic resistance. It's a good shield. It's not really worth 25 gems for sure, but it does have a very high parry value, but it's not worth 25 gems still. And a Ring of Regeneration, so regenerating at 10%. Christine is very, very low path, very much just kind of a basic Awake Expander while taking lots of scales. But the important thing here is that Christine does not have a magical weapon, and so Christine cannot effectively destroy several hundred ethereal units, none of whom ever rout. And so, as a result, Vengeance of the Dead did what it does, which is pick a super combatant and turn timer them. So Christine, spoiler alert, Christine died. Christine's dead. We've killed Ulm's god, which is at least makes me happy. It doesn't really change the strategic situation, but it makes me happy. In Black Forest, we wiped out the province defense, no problem. In Dunster, this is Nazca attacking Tianqi, wiped out a ton of province defense with only 4 Condor casualties. This is an army of 100 Condors. It's incredibly powerful. Especially because Condors, this says siege bonus 1, they still have 4 siege strength each. So, yeah, this is still 400 siege strength. Plus an Inca and a Hurin priest. Very, very powerful. And like I said, an Olyar wiped out, Trouble Bog. A small group of Vanarusian soldiers were wiped out for a cost of 1 Black Knight. This is a pretty powerful army too, 247 Black Plate Infantry. As well as a Wolf Tribe Shaman, a bunch of basic mages, and a Golem. Ulm is deploying Golems in several places. Of course, I killed one that was kitted out for thugging. These are army support Golems. This Golem is here with it has a Dimensional Rod for some reason. Why it has a Dimensional Rod, I'm not certain, but it increases Astral Spell range, I guess. And this Golem is just built to be kind of hard to kill, and to have Astral 5 in total. So, Crystal Shield, Starshine Skullcap. I think it's actually may have been aren't Golems only Astral 2? I feel like it may have been empowered once. But in any case, it has a bunch of Astral Pearls, and it just casts Astral buff spells, basically. So we can see there. Not anti-magic, interestingly. Really should be casting anti-magic, probably, but it's just casting... It's actually casting Soul Slay, so I guess it wasn't scripted to really do much in this battle. Yep, it's not spending any gems, it's just spamming basic buffs and then Soul Slay. Weapons of Sharpness are down, and yeah, they wiped him out with no trouble whatsoever. So Ulm continues to roll onwards. We'll see if my strategy here will work. I'm not entirely explicating the strategy yet, although I've talked about the bits and pieces at different times. But I think my strategy will enable me to hold an Ulmish army off, will enable me to stop it. but we'll see, because I've been wrong about this kind of thing before. I'm not, I mean, as with most players, I'm not super well versed in the relative efficiencies of late game battle magic, just because I haven't played all that much in the late game. Most players don't. When you get to late game Dominions, it's kind of do or die. It's after you've already committed, 30 or 40 hours per game to the early game. Anyway, I've already talked about that particular flaw in Dominions before, but I still love the game no matter how much I shit on it. We've got a couple of assassins ready, we've got a whole bunch of mages ready, we can form a small communion if we need to, or actually a moderately sized communion. We've got our death mages, several of them pretty high level, we've got a big water mage, we've got a lot of ladies coming in, so we'll see what we can do there. And this army is moving out just to kind of test the waters. I don't see any troops here, there may be troops here coming back, but possibly I can besiege Thing Woods and take it. I anticipate this army is going to be marching up towards me, which is why I chose Thing Woods instead of Druidland. I wouldn't want to try and storm Druidland if this army was next to me, but we'll see how it goes. So, a little bit short, but that's kind of where we are. It's all very simple at this point. So thanks for watching. I'll see y'all in turn 56. Alright, it is turn 56, and first of all, we've got a sort of hilarious message from Nazca. Nazca has attacked Tianqi, of course, as we mentioned before, and it has caused some amount of chaos and consternation, and to be fully honest, I tried to get Ulm to agree with me to turn on Nazca here, but at the same time, I'm not devoted enough to dragging this game out, even if that was possible, to be willing to give up to Ulm a whole bunch of territory, especially because, I should say that a little bit more clearly, I'm actually interested in seeing how well I can do against Ulmish armies. So when he said, yeah, we can do that, but I'm keeping all the shit I took from you, and I'm like, nah, I don't think so. I think I can probably at least put up a good fight here, and we'll just kind of have to see who does better. So, run at me, Cut, if you think you're tough enough. That's the Sun King in Council. Also, relatedly, I have dispelled Earthblood Deepwell, and Nazca has cast the Wrath of God. So lightning bolts striking all over the shop. It is a problem we can see here. Lightning from a Militia Pretender God. 21 units wounded, 37 were killed, but none of them were a commander, so I lost probably 37 pygmies. So Funny Guy did dispel Earthblood Deepwell. We cast Leprosy, we hit Troya, 83 units in that province were diseased. That's this army over here. This army has collapsed on the halls. And he has another King of Deeper Earth coming. So, I've got my defense plan set up. I could gamble here that he's not going to, push in and attack me immediately, which is probably true, but I'm not willing to risk it. So what I'm doing instead is, I'm defending. I'm gem burning him with Imarika, who is breaking siege carrying 4 random items, and I'll give him 6 blood slaves too, just in case, just to make sure that he draws gem usage, which I hope he will. He is berserk. He's going to charge into the enemy army and die, and hopefully he'll cause them to spend gems in the process. Meanwhile, my army is all set up. The biggest weakness, actually, that I have right now is a lack of the battlefield-wide resistances. Firefend, in particular. Firefend is actually kind of important to me. I don't have a prayer of getting it in time, but we're going to start researching it, because he is firestorming. And I know that's part of his tactics. I've seen him use it before. And so I would have to guess, I'd have to bet that he is firestorming in this army right now, or he will when he attacks. My defense is primarily Long Dead Horsemen, and my strategy here is I'm dropping lots of Shadow Blasts. I actually should not be dropping Shadow Blast. I should instead be dropping Cloud of Death, which also costs a gem, but actually costs a lot less fatigue and has this armor negating damage. It is magic resistance and negates, and it doesn't affect undead beings. So it does less damage, but it lingers for 4 rounds. And it affects a very large area, +2 per level. So Cloud of Death, I think, will be highly effective, especially in the context of a siege. We'll get a few people throwing Cloud of... We'll keep a few people throwing Shadow Blasts, but we also have several Cloud of Death casters. Mike Ruzoth is casting Cloud of Death, as well as Skeletal Legion to render all of my troops resistant to piercing damage. Mechanum is dropping Rigor Mortis, and actually Mike Ruzoth instead of Skeletal Legion, should start off with Darkness. So we've got Darkness, we've got Rigor Mortis, we've also got Grip of Winter, which he may not be expecting. Now, I say may because, to be fair, Mr. Root has prosecuted this war very meticulously. He's clearly built pretty solid armies, and he's anticipated a lot of the potential counters. So he may have anticipated Grip of Winter, but Grip of Winter and Rigor Mortis is actually quite a potent combination, especially because this is a cold province, since it is late fall, and it's in Christine's domain, and Christine does not seem to have much, if any, heat. So my dominion is, of course, heat 3, and so my provinces that have had my dominion for a while, have heat even here in fall. But the halls do not. The halls are cold, so Grip of Winter is extra effective in the halls. So if we drop Grip of Winter, oh, and actually, no, wait, this is a cave, isn't it? Yeah, this is a cave. I don't need to drop Darkness here. Darkness is already in effect. It's not quite as potent, but it'll be fine. It will still debuff precision and all that, so I don't really need that. So yeah, Skeletal Legion is probably the way to go. Or, alternatively, Life After Death. Because I do have a whole bunch of cavemen and such. So that would increase my chaff potential a little bit. Leeching Darkness, also pretty decent, although not as good as Cloud of Death. Yeah, I don't really need Darkness then, I guess. It would be nice if I could cast Bone Grinding, but I can't really do that. I could potentially cast Bone Grinding. Actually, I tell a lie. I can potentially cast Bone Grinding, but did I ever forge a Ring of Returning? I feel like I did. I planned to. No, I didn't. Damn it. Because, see, what I could do is I could teleport in Funny Guy, have him etherealize himself, and then cast Bone Grinding. And then teleport away. That's a potential, and that would be sort of hilarious. Because let me see. Because he's Death 4, he could carry both Death boosters, which would make him Death 6. And then he could cast Power of the Spheres for 1. But Body Ethereal to prevent it from hitting him, because Bone Grinding does not hit ethereal targets often. It does 3 armor negating damage, there's no save to it, that's the cool thing. So it just outright kills a whole bunch of people. And it only has 150% cast time. The risk would be that he wouldn't be able to get away. Returning is dangerous. And I don't have a Ring of Returning. And I don't have any gems, because all my gems are committed. I'll be honest, it might be worth doing that. It might be worth just Bone Grinding the shit out of this, this whole army here. I could reset the turn and do that. Oh, baby. What a thought, what a thought, what a thought, what a thought to have. Without the Ring of Returning, I don't want to do it, but I'll set it up for a little bit later. For right now, we're just going to fight this battle traditionally. I'm curious to see how this setup does. So I've got a Communion setup. I'm doing Relief. I'm doing Howl. I'm casting a whole bunch of the smaller area, the AoE 15 fire resistance spells. I'm casting Grip of Winter, I'm casting Rigor Mortis, I'm casting a lot of Shadow Blast and a lot of Cloud of Death. So if he storms, I think he's going to find himself in a difficult situation. If he firestorms, the firestorm may inflict a ton of damage to me, but on the other hand, my Long Dead Horsemen, most of them will be kind of packed up, and they should be hit pretty well by the Flame Wards. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mages casting, 6 mages casting Flame Wards. I don't have enough fire gems for him. Eesh. And then I've also got Geth, after he casts Grip of Winter, casting Fire Resistance, which is the water equivalent of that spell. I've got all my undead, should be on hold and attack, hold and attack, hold and attack, hold and attack. So we're going to give the enemy plenty of time to get in. We've got the cavemen up front. The cavemen are just kind of sacrificial lambs, to be honest. They are going to charge in. There's nothing that can be done to stop them since they're undisciplined. But they will. There's 60 cavemen up here. They do have 23 hit points each, so that is unfortunate. But cavemen are already fire resistant. So they don't have a lot of prot, unfortunately. If they had some prot, they'd be perfect. I'll tell you what, let's get the Marble Warriors guy going on them. I have a guy casting Marble Warriors. Azan. Let's have Azan back here so he can throw down Marble Warriors onto the cavemen. And hopefully that Marble Warriors will... And they'll pile up against the back of my own troops if I put them right there. So the Marble Warriors plus the fire resistance should prevent them from taking too much damage from Firestorm. Because with Prot 15 plus 5 fire resistance, it'll only be dealing 1 AP damage versus about 8 protection. Which shouldn't hurt them much. I really wish I had mass regeneration, but I don't. My problem in this war is just that my research is not good enough. With a little bit higher level research, if I had level 8 enchantment, mass regeneration would be really good. Level 8 enchantment would just be fantastic for me in general, but unfortunately I don't have it, and focusing on evocation in order to get to level 8 there may not have been the best decision. Although, frankly, Vortex of Unlife, great spell for this case. Fantastic spell for this. Magic resistance negates, rises the enemy as soulless, area of effect 5, does a ton of armor negating damage. Vortex of Unlife is a great spell if you have death mages who can cast it, which I do. So, yeah, I think Evocation level 8 is a fine decision in general, just possibly Enchantment level 8 would have been better for me as a priority. This army here has besieged Thingwoods, cracked it. This force is right here. I'm not sure if they're going to move up after me or not, but this army is going to move over here. The reason to do this, the reason to take these two provinces, is so that if I win this battle, which I hope I will, this army will be destroyed by retreat mechanics. If they attack me and fail and fall back, the goal here is to get a bunch of them killed by retreating into enemy territory. Also, if this army, which is led by an Iron Angel, moves down, they should run into this army and have a boatload of trouble there. So that's the goal there. I've got Anthrax is actually moving over here, and he's going to move over into this province. If this army moves up, they'll be intercepted by Anthrax, who I hope can stalemate them. He does have 32 prot, which means that he won't take that much damage from each hit of Iron Blizzard. He will still take some, because of the way Iron Blizzard works. Because it'll be 20 AP, because it doubles before protection, unfortunately. So it'll be 20 damage versus about 14 prot, if I'm doing my math right, since it's armor piercing and piercing damage. So, yeah, he'll take damage from hits, but he has enough hit points to tank a few hits. And with the Amulet of Resilience keeping his reinvigoration up, he should be able to hold himself down below 100 fatigue pretty well. In which case, he can just keep respawning and respawning and respawning and respawning, and should be fine. Plus, with the Soul Vortex, if he's fighting a big army like this, he'll end up getting surrounded by Black Plate Infantry and Guardians, who won't be able to hurt him very well because his prot is super high, he's not sacred, so the Bane of Heresy doesn't proc, and he's ethereal, so only the Guardians can cut through the ethereality, and the Soul Vortex should keep his fatigue low as well. And then if he's killed, he'll explode in the Cloud of Fire, and etc., etc. I think Anthrax has at least some odds of taking on a stack like this. It's not guaranteed, because he could get unlucky. If he, for example, happens to explode and ends up in the middle of a bunch of Priest Smiths, so they all get a mass point-blank range Iron Blizzard volley into him, he'll explode instantly. And whether he lives or not will depend on what his fatigue happens to be at that exact moment. So there is a definite random factor, but I'm going to give it a shot. I'm going to try it. We do have another army right down here. Now, of interest, here in Trouble Bog, the original Vanarus player has come back. The sub, Demise, has been moved away, and the original Demise was getting his absolute shit kicked in. The original player, Mr. General Sinwah, has been doing a little bit more activity. So he's got Delling the White Mage over here, who has all kind. This is a White Mage Vanabog, carrying a Ring of Returning and a Skull Staff. So he's Death 3, and he just saunters on out here, and they all start casting all their spells, and he casts Wind of Death, and then teleports out when he takes some damage, and the Wind of Death fucking vaporizes half the army, because Wind of Death is just make a magic resistance check, and if you fail it, you get Decay, which almost inevitably kills any human HP person who gets it. So, he managed to kill 1, 2, 3, 4 mages, 5 black knights, 100 black plate infantry, a bunch of guardians, because even guardians have shit magic resistance, several infantry of Ulm and sappers, a fire drake, just tons and tons of stuff. Very, very well played there. Excellent use of Wind of Death. That's what it's designed for, essentially. We are once again being attacked by Asphodel. I don't have any way to stop this. I just have to ignore this. I can be salty about it if I want, but I can't stop this army. Like, I can't spare the resources to do anything about it. So, if he wants, he can even come up here and take a Micton and possibly the Throne of Beasts. I just don't have an answer. So, I'm not going to even try. We're just going to let that be. That'll be what it is. We're going to focus on fighting Ulm, and definitely the game has now entered its end stages. Nazca, the Nazca Throne Rush is certainly in effect. Well, it's not a rush. I mean, it's the point where people just win the game, normally. The Nazcan Throne Push is in effect. Nazca is birding the hell out of Tianqi, and we'll see how it goes. We'll just have to see how things end up, I guess, because, I mean, Ermor is dead at this point. Ermor's basically gone. That army that we saw down here, I've talked with other players about it, that was pretty much their last gasp. Ermor is off the field. What's left is, like, all this belongs to Nazca now, pretty much. Which is kind of what I expected. What doesn't belong to Ulm, anyway? Ulm is, you know, over here somewhere. My lack of scouting in this game has been a real problem. But in any case, Nazca is definitely going to win this game. The only thing that remains is to see how much damage I can do to the Ulmish war machine. In the ideal case, I would love to manage to somehow take Ulm before the war is over. And Is is actually raiding them quite successfully, it looks like. We can see up here in Faldenberg, there was a battle where we had a couple of Morgan, I forget whether these were champions or princesses. Morgan champions, lightly thugged out. Well, not so likely. He's got an artifact sword. Why does he have Ember? Why? I guess he forged Ember with his Forge of the Ancients. That's hilarious. So he's got a thug equipped with Ember, which is an incredibly powerful... I mean, it's like it's a Frost brand and a Fire brand smashed together, but with higher stats and better damage, and also both resistances at a higher level. So Ember is, like, pretty good, to be honest. Like, pretty much worth 20 gems if you want to thug with it. Does a crap ton of damage. This one has Iron Will, so magic resistance pretty high. Look, if you're going to give Ember to somebody, slap an Amulet of MR on them. Just please. I mean, there's no reason to potentially leave this Morgan champion to die when she's carrying a 20-gem artifact sword. That's hilarious. So we've got a regular-ass thugged-out Morgan champion, and then a super thugged-out Morgan champion, backed up by a whole bunch of Isian druids. Why all these Isian druids are here, I'm not sure. Isian druids are pretty terrible overall. I guess they're just buffing these ladies. They're dropping quickness on them to make them combat speed 60. Ooh, baby. Watch this, watch this, watch it. Wait for it, wait for it. Zoom! I love it. That's hilarious. That's fantastic. Oh, I love stupid thugs. They're great. Okay, so, yeah. That's happening. They lost an Isian druid to crossbows. And Nazca is, like I said, just birding Tianqi. They actually lost 11 condors here, which is a surprising number. This was a fort, I guess, so they had some crossbows in there. 2 Imperial Geomancers. Phaelian and a Faceless Bureaucratic Drone. Yeah, it looks like the crossbows just caused some damage. Yep, that's what it is. Walls often confuse birds a little bit, and Nazca is casting Pillar of Fire, so in that area at least, their research is actually superior to mine. So, yep, that happened. In any case, that's the turn. The main interesting thing here will be seeing whether he attacks me, for one thing. I am breaking siege to gem burn him. Whether he attacks me or not, this should go off before that. I'm also moving in. I'm going to move in these guys, so those guys will also attack along with the mage. I'm not sure whether they would be enough to spark gem usage by themselves, which is why I'm sending them in with that Berserk Mage guy. And everyone I send will die. That is, like, very much true. I guess I'll tell these guys to retreat, so they might be able to make it off the field. But generally speaking, everyone I send is going to die, and that's okay. I'm sneaking in these assassins. I have 2 assassins assassinating, with water bottles. They may be able to take out a couple of enemy mages. If they get lucky, they could score some kind of really, really critical victory and cause the enemy communion some serious problems. That would be hilarious if they could manage that. And let's keep recruiting shamans, shall we? Yeah, because we've got a pretty decent shaman communion going on there. More assassins. We're also recruiting some black hunters just because we can. No real reason. Just there's no reason not to. And yeah, we'll see what we can do. Hopefully we can break this army and make a push on Ulm itself. That would be hilarious and also amazing. If not, then we'll just see what happens with Ulm. And we'll see how Antrax does as well. I'm hopeful that this gearing will let him, you know, live a little bit. At the very least, he should spark a lot of gem usage if this army does indeed move up this way. And if he doesn't, then he doesn't, you know. C'est la vie, c'est la guerre. Actually, I'll tell you what, these armies might be planning to collapse on Mammoth Grove. Huh. Why don't I just have him patrol instead? And Mbamba, move over there, and yeah, you can just hold 3 times and then retreat. I'll give you 6 blood slaves as well. Okay, there we go. That'll be the plan. Thanks for watching. See you in turn 57. Goddammit, Perun, you cannot be serious. Alright, yeah, so he did it again. He rushed. I didn't expect him to be this close. He successfully rushed that, and Perun wins the game. Again. This is really impressive performance, actually. I mean, admittedly, yeah, with pre-nerf Nazca, sure, winning the game if you're not ganged up on early on is kind of expected, but Perun did it very well, and Perun has now established definitely a pattern of winning the game before that's anticipated. Like, yes, everyone knew he was going for it, everyone anticipated that he was going to win the game at some point pretty soon. I did not expect it to be this turn, and I don't think anyone else really did, but he managed to claim 2 thrones, the Crystal Throne and the Throne of Ice. And he won. Now, so there was a bunch of battles, not many of them actually matter. There was this battle in Trouble Bog, there was a battle in Druidland where my Witch Doctor bounced off just province defense. There was a battle in Ablach where my moving army was actually defeated by Barathrus, the King of Deeper Earth. So we can view that battle. And my whole army was moving up there, and Barathrus just came out, and I think he just earthquaked me. He had the flailing hands for some reason, which is sort of hilarious, but I think he just earthquaked a lot. We got flaming arrows off, which doesn't actually matter, and we cast Howl. And nope, it doesn't look like he is, actually. He's just standing there. Oh, he must have. He used up all his earth gems, at least. No, that doesn't make any sense. What did he use up his earth gems on? I'm sorry, Christine, the King of Deeper Earth. He cast Weapons of Sharpness and then Maws of the Earth. Yeah, and then he's just not taking any damage, because the fact of the matter is, he has Prot 30 and 20% regeneration, so unless you have specifically built something to kill him, you're not going to kill him. And my own friendly fire inflicted, I think, literally hundreds of casualties. So, yeah, that happened. And then my archers closed in. They did start doing a little bit of damage, but not enough to overcome that regeneration. I mean, actually, I tell a lie. They are cutting him down. Not reliably, though. I would need pretty significantly beefier firepower in order to overcome that regeneration. If I get lucky, it cuts it down for a little while, but with him regenerating 26 hit points around, it's just too much. So, yeah, Barathrus just beats me by time. Super combatants, man. If you're not prepared for them, they're very, very tough. You can see he only got 50 kills. I lost 252 units with 396 friendly fire kills on my pygmies. So there was that. Battle in Thing Woods. The armies of Ulm stormed in, as kind of anticipated. We took control of Troya. That was right there with no units, I guess. Oh, right, because my units are invisible because it was the end of the game. And there was a battle in the halls. So first of all, we tried to assassinate a priest smith, failed. We also did assassinate Arnulf the Master Smith, succeeded, so that was just a water elemental punching him to death. The most efficient kind of assassination, just bring a fucking water elemental. Unfortunately, Arnulf was not important, so he just he just got punched by a water elemental, and that was that. The Priest Smith, Pawns. Pawns was, I think, somewhat important, and that's why he had a guard. Nope, he wasn't important either. He just had a Black Plate Infantry. And the Water Elemental punched the Black Plate Infantry, and then got hit by Iron Blizzard and vaporized, as Iron Blizzard does to magical beings. Then there was a battle in the halls. This was my sally out. I stormed out with a whole bunch of units to force them to use gems, and they did use a whole bunch of gems, which is good. So they have their Enchanter here, who is Nature 5 with all those Nature gems. They've got... who else? Who else do they have who has Nature? I think that's their only Nature guy. They've also got Christine, the King of the Mountains. He's named both of his Earth Kings Christine. I don't know why Mr. Root does this Christine thing, but I mean, okay, that's cool. Bully for him. He's another basic super combatant, basic just army countering super combatant, and unfortunately that's exactly what he needs here, because I don't have any super combatant counters set up. But he's got his army, he's got a water elemental from somebody. This Pawns the Priest Smith picked that water bottle up. He's got some fire gems, all that stuff. He cast a whole bunch of spells, including Earthquake, which is good. I love the fact that he's using up his Earthquake on this battle. That was kind of part of the reason for doing this, is just to force him to use up gems. Then I get driven off the field, which is fine. He's used up a bunch of gems summoning elementals, all that stuff. He also took some casualties, including half of his Black Knights. So that's pretty cool. And then there's the battle in the fortress. At the fortress, first of all, there's Dragon Scale Mountains, which was fine. Like, I didn't really pay any attention to this. 25 Carrion Beasts died, so that's cool. And then there was the battle at the fortress in the halls. So this is where my strategy is put to the test, and to large degree vindicated with an asterisk. He did not Firestorm here like I anticipated he would, so I didn't necessarily need to do that, and I could have potentially actually deployed my anti-super combatant counter. But one thing to keep in mind, so we get Grip of Winter, we get Howl, we get Rigor Mortis, and we also cast Darkness, which increases the penalty for being in a cave to -6 instead of the usual -3. So we've now got an incredible, like, vortex of fatigue damage going, which unfortunately does affect my own mages. So we can see my magus over here, already up to 24 fatigue, despite only casting, I think, one spell. And in a communion, no less. The Shadow Blasts start going down. He's made all of his units poison resistant, which is good thinking, but not necessary, because that's not what I'm doing today. So the Shadow Blasts start going down. They do quite a bit of damage. Iron Blizzard starts flying out, but it's targeting the walls, which is good. There goes the Earthquake. Now, the Earthquake is hugely damaging to me because my Magi have almost no defense skill. So the Earthquake wipes out my Magi pretty much. There's a few of them left, but not many. And, of course, they are also all scripted still. They only have 4 Communion Slaves, you can see here. They're just scripted to cast Firefend, instead of, like, Gifts from Heaven or anything, which could potentially have killed Christine, but alas. So, the Iron Blizzards are flying out. They are doing some damage, but they really are targeting the walls a great deal. And, if we look back here, we can see that his mages are up to quite high fatigue already. Some of them are, in fact, fatigued out already. He's dropping some Pillars of Fire. I did get the Fire Fend down on some of my units, not all of them, especially not all of the Long Dead Horsemen. Some of the Long Dead Horsemen did get that Fire Resistance 5, which would have kept me on the field in case of a Fire Storm. My Magi have Fire Resistance. These guys back here have Fire Resistance, which is fantastic. They're the ones who really need it. There's also a Hunter Spider. This guy was my... This is what happens to Black Sorcerers when they quote-unquote die. He got hit by the Earthquake, and so turned into a Hunter Spider, which is very, very wise of him. So we fast forward a few rounds, and you notice no real damage is being done. The Black Plate Infantry are mostly already fatigued out. A lot of them are starting to run. The Priest Smiths are trying to run, but a lot of them are also fatigued out, and watch what happens. A ton of Ulm's units just freeze on their way to escape the battlefield because of fatigue. Like that guy, he's stopped. He's not waking up. This guy right there, stopped, not gonna wake up. All of Ulm's units are now unconscious, including Christine, the King of the Mountains. Every now and then, a couple of them wake up and get to take one step, but in the meantime, the Clouds of Death over here are doing damage to the the stopped Black Plate infantry, even past magic resistance 13, and pretty soon my undead are able to flood out and start slowly killing everyone. Now, so this is a crushing success for my strategy so far. Now the problem is, of course, Christine. Just like we saw in that previous battle, Christine is a very tough super combatant who regenerates at 15% in this case, not 20%. But that's still about 20 hit points a round. Doing 20 hit points of damage per round past 33 protection is no joke, particularly for long dead horsemen who only do 13 damage. So they're rolling at 13 piercing damage versus they do reduce his prot from 33, but that's like 26 prot plus pierce resistance. So the net result is even when he's completely fatigued out, they do almost no damage. And then you have the long dead who do even less. The net result of this is Christine turn timers me. Christine stays on the field the whole time. Also, he has a fire shield, so he's actually killing people as they attack him, which is sort of hilarious. He's much more effective unconscious than my troops are at killing him while he's unconscious because of the fire shield. So, yeah, you can see he's gotten 3 kills since we last looked. So, Christine, like I said, Christine turn timers my army. My army is just huge hordes of undead chaff, basically. My sorcerers and everyone who's not undead is unconscious at this point. And when the turn timer comes, the map explodes and everyone dies. I do get a rout before then, so what happens here is my Rigor Mortis caster and my other mound fiends either die or rout off the field, which allows a couple of my mages to get away, but mostly my army explodes. So we're gonna skip ahead. So the net result is battle at our fortress in the halls. The forces of Ulm are decimated. Their enchanter is killed. Their black priest is killed. It says the king of the mountains lived, but that's not actually correct, or it shouldn't be. He should have died there. Almost all their mages are wiped out, so 19 mages there, plus their whole army. However, on my side, I also lose pretty much everything. I lose 1 of my Lamia queens. I lose all 12 of my magi, all 3 of my mound fiends. That hurts. My sea king, 4 shamans, 4 sorcerers, and a troll shaman. Plus pretty much all of my troops. The troops, very much replaceable. The mages, though, that does hurt. Losing a Lamia queen and 3 mound fiends and a sea king, oof, painful. This overall, I would say, was still a decent trade for me in that I blunted his advance, and most of this is replaceable for me, especially because my death gem income is so high, but still, bad. Not what I would have hoped for. But, of course, it doesn't matter, because Perun fucking snuck out the victory, like the sneaky bird that he is. So, very good game, all around. We can see here, yeah, basically what I thought was true. Perun controlled vast swaths of territory. In fact, he'd even pushed over further than I anticipated. This was one that he took just last turn, the Throne of Ice. So he must have just taken that just recently. Over here, we've got Ermor is besieging Uruk. But beyond that, all Ermor has is Ashdod and a few provinces surrounding it. Everything else has been stopped. That's the Metal Spire. Ooh, that's a fantastic site. The Metal Spires is amazing. And that is the Crystal Throne. So that is the other throne that Perun just took. It was that one and this one way over on the other side of the map. So very good job to Perun. Showed us how it's done with Nazca. Nazca has, of course, been changed since the game started. Has been nerfed pretty significantly. Not, like, enormously and unstoppably, but they have gotten a lot worse at scaling. That said, the mass slave strategy that Perun was leaning on heavily has not been changed. So, like, Condors scale less, and Supayas are, I think, slightly harder to get. But, no, actually, Supayas were not changed. Condors scale a lot less is the only real change. That and scales have been altered so that this kind of hell scales penalizes you even harder than it does than it did in this game. But still, very well done. What could anyone have done about this? Well, I honestly feel like I was never in a position during the course of the game to really fight Perun. Just by virtue of basically being Machaka and having started next to him like that. I did well, in my estimation at least, just to stop him from murdering me early on. And after that, there was never a time when I really wanted to fight him. I could have potentially tried to whip up more of a more of a coalition, but with the neighborhood being how it was. Because, I mean, it's like Nazca, Pythium, who died very early, Ashdod, Ermor, where was Ermor's capital anyway? That's Ermor. Asphodel, that whole area was just incredibly toxic, and I don't know that I could have really effectively got a coalition together. Oh god, look at this province. The Throne of Misfortune, Death, Water, Gold, Air. That's an impressive province right there. Anyway, so I don't know. How else could this have ended? It's a little bit hard to say. Obviously Perun did a very, very good job, and you can see just by the extent of his holdings, he was everywhere. He pretty much circumnavigated the globe. He had holdings over here by relay, all kinds of shit. Is actually did very well too. Normally I would see Is destroyed by the late game like this, but they really held on. They even, like I said, they even raided Ulm with some success. Up here we've got Phaeacia. Phaeacia also held on till the very end. They were never huge, but they were always relevant, and they secured some pretty damn valuable provinces over here. I tell you what, 400 income on Konberg. Yowza. 800 income in Phaeacia, partially thanks to that orichalcum mine. That is impressive numbers. As for my performance, obviously there are things I could have done better, but overall I feel like I put in a pretty satisfactory showing. Destroying Sceleria was great. What I needed to do after destroying Sceleria was I needed to transition faster and more effectively to a different strategy. After destroying Sceleria, I think I said that right. And I never really managed to do that quite. I was in the process of doing so when the game ended, but obviously that was too late. I was moving towards the mass undead strategy with a lot of mound fiends, with a lot of death magic. Given another 15 or 20 turns, that could have been effective, but I was just too late. That was the thing. I just wasn't moving fast enough. And that's one of the things that you really have to master in order to be successful in Dominions a lot of the time, is being able to move fast enough. And that's one of the things that I think makes Machaka a weak nation. And it's a little bit more complicated to talk about than like looks at first glance, but like a big reason why sorcerers are not good mages is that they don't enable you to adopt a strategy quickly, if that makes sense. They're hard to spam because they're expensive and non-sacred, and you have to spam them in order to get usable numbers of the valuable randoms. So you end up in this situation where you're like, I don't really have the mages to support any strategy except the very most basic, if that makes sense. Other things I should have done. I should probably have used black sorcerers more aggressively and more commonly. Spammed fewer sorceresses, more black sorcerers potentially, although sorceresses are very good for the research. If sorceresses were any fort, Middle-aged Machaka would be a much better nation. But yeah, overall, I think I did pretty well. That war against Ulm, it wasn't going great, but I think I could probably have managed to accomplish some other things. Pulling off that victory there was key, although I really, really wish I could have not had everyone explode at the end of it. And I think I could have done some stuff. I probably would still have lost, you know, this down here. What happened to... What happened to the King of Banefires? He didn't take Troya, did he? Because I thought I sent him over here to Druidland. But apparently not. Oh no, I left him to patrol, that's right. So he never actually got attacked. Okay. And on the last turn, just to put a capstone on it, I was attacked by barbarians in the Wood of Many Paths. Great. Alright, so thanks everyone for watching. Thanks to everyone who played in this game. All the players, thanks to Perun, especially for showing us all how it's done with Nazca. Very, very strong player. Notably, he's played in 2 games hosted on my server now, and he's won both of them. So, new Perun meta confirmed. Mr. Root did a very, very good job as Ulm. Solid effort, took a lot of territory, fought several tough wars, and really succeeded at all of them, kind of showcasing the very straightforward and powerful Ulmish Doom stack strategy, as it were, because that was what it was. He was marching around these big old stacks, taking territory. We were inflicting attrition on him with things like the Wind of Death over here with my castings of leprosy, etc., but it wasn't enough to take them down, and that's really what Ulm is about. So very well done there. Very well done to everybody, in fact. Everyone played a very solid game. Also, I am amazed, can I just say, Nosy Rat, a hellacious game as Ermor. Really stuck it out. I mean, even at the very end, he's still here. Ermor is not gone. Ermor has just migrated to the Twin Cities and taken over. So well played, well fought on his part. Everyone did fantastic. Asphodel really stuck to their guns, held on to the very end, and look, at the end of the game, Asphodel, who at one point was nearly destroyed, has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 provinces, and they're besieging another fort. If that's not dedication, I don't know what is. So, it's been a great game. Glad to have played it. I'll see y'all in the next one.